Welcome back, everybody. Once again, happy Friday. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my guest, Saber Mostafa. We ended the last segment talking about his humble beginnings in Hell's Kitchen, resilience, how pressure makes diamonds, and if you plant apple seeds, don't expect oranges to grow.
That's right. Yes.
And I think these are a lot of things that are have been key to your success. But before we move on to that, let's talk about apples and oranges. You spent some time in the food industry. You were just talking about, and myself, I've dabbled in food. Well, you got started in a fruit and vegetable stand at 12 years old here in Hell's Kitchen.
Yes. Well, let me share something that I don't think a lot of your viewers or your listeners know.
Please.
But in the Mama Papa fruit markets back in the days, you know, they took pride. The consumers didn't come and pick out their own produce. Mm-hmm. You would tell one of the workers and they'd go pick it out for you and put it on the scale and serve you. You didn't walk in the store and serve it yourself. In the 70s, it changed a little bit in the 80s and the 90s as the supermarkets were opening up all over the place.
Park Slope mamas would not have that these days.
No. And you got to know, it was more personable. You got to know your customers. You know how they like the tomatoes and the apples and, you know, what they like.
Well,
and
butchers are still like that, though. You go to a butcher, especially if you know them and you're like, hey, this is what I need. And they just get it for you. You don't you're not like, I want that one.
They know exactly what you like.
Exactly. That's amazing. See, I would love that level of service and repeat business where somebody knows exactly what you're looking for. Like, oh, no, he likes the smaller apples because XYZ or whatever, you know, and that's amazing. That's really amazing.
And so that was my, you know, that's where I learned the business. And I wasn't very good in school.
You know? You're in good company. Me either. I
was a hard worker. My father always told me, you know, work hard and you'll grow up the ladder. You know, it's funny we're talking about that because, you know, that's what I got. You work hard, you grow up the ladder. Mm. That's what we heard at the dinner table versus if you grew up and your parents were in stocks and real estate. You hear different conversation at the table.
Sure.
But I learned produce and I became very good at it. And I went from the Mama Papa stores to the chain stores.
The bigger ones, yeah. I just wanted to elaborate on what you were saying a moment ago. Like for me, you know, my parents both had college degrees. They were the first, I think, in their families to get college degrees. And prior was all, you know, very blue collar. But that wasn't so much the discussion at our table. I mean, they encouraged education, but I think it's really interpersonal and like what's in your DNA. And for me, it wasn't school. Like I was the same. I get 12 years old in the summers. I was out there, man, trying. My grandfather was a real hustler, and he was a woodworker, like a master carpenter and wood craftsman. And he had me like running his stuff around the neighborhood, like selling it door to door. And then I was like, yo, this is what I want to do. I'm not interested in school. And I bombed in school. Like I failed 8th grade. I dropped out in 11th grade. I dropped out in 12th grade. I was just like, but I was running restaurants and I was running bands and I was making money. The whole thing was to be independent, you know, and I didn't grow up hard. I grew up edgy, but not hard, you know? But you know, I think it's really about the person and in your self-awareness. Like me, I knew that the educational route, I ended up getting a master's degree. It was a real roundabout way, but it almost had nothing to do with what success really ended up being for me. And I think if it's like for anybody listening, if you feel like that's inside of you, like that's what your soul, your being is telling you to do, you just got to go for that. Not to knock education, you know, but
I agree with you. If you enjoy what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And I enjoy
absolutely. You were just saying that on a break, and I don't feel like I enjoy it. I rarely feel like I'm working, even though like I'm working all the time. But so I just wanted to drop that little bit in there. Go ahead with
and I enjoyed the produce, and I became very good at it. I knew how to make a profit,
which is getting harder these days.
And that enabled me to demand certain salaries as I was going to the chain stores. But so I like my first chain store was Gristedes, Red Apple Supermarket, and I grew up the ladder there. And then I left and I went to other markets and learned, you know, Food Emporium. I remember when Food Emporium was Dutch Shopwell. And then that's when it was like the dinosaur supermarket, like almost like a large bodega.
Yeah.
And then they got really fancy and switched from Dutch Shopwell to Food Emporium. I was there during that transition. And then from there, I became an assistant produce manager and then a produce manager. Then I went back, circled back to Gristedes. And it was funny, young, I got married young. I was 21. So, we had, I didn't get it, the luck. Like I did a lot of clubbing. I was a break dancer as a kid and all that
I pay
stuff.
money to see those videos.
Yeah. And I mean, really,
I didn't know
break
that.
dance, not just on the corners, but when we
Yeah.
performed at the Roxy's.
Well, I mean, you grew up in the heart of
this
it, man.
neighborhood.
I remember coming to Times Square as a kid and just like watching those kids and just being fascinated. That was where I was at,
And
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing because we knew all the bouncers.
Do you have video? Is
You
there
know,
some footage out there?
my parents didn't encourage it, so they would tear up the pictures and get rid of everything.
Bad.
But there is
I'd
an
love
ad.
to see a picture of you in like Adidas suit and a
an
Kango.
Yeah,
Nice.
there is one ad online, and maybe I'll put it on my Facebook. It's about the new dance craze. It was the Christian Monitor 1983. They put my name. We tried, my daughter, everybody tried to go back and look for stuff, and we just not able. My parents just wanted me to go to school and work, and it just wasn't dancing. You're not gonna dance. We're not gonna encourage it.
That's just that was the gym of the day for me. Thank you. I feel completely.
No, thank you. Yeah,
awesome.
I still do it every now and then. My wife gets me out there on the dance floor, and I'll spin on my back. It's not as easy when you're 95. You're 95 pounds, and when you're 200 pounds.
You got to hook up with Cynthia King's sons because they're really talented, and I wanted to work with them a little bit because my daughters were, when she was on Prospect, they were taking dance from her, and they did a big show, and my daughters were in it, and her sons came out, and I was like, yo, these guys are straight legit, and I have the body strength and the mobility. I just need the technique and the courage.
So besides working hard in the supermarkets and being in the fruit and vegetable industry, but we grew up with all these guys when they were just starting. The Rocksteady crew, Jelly Benitez, Eddie Arroyo, City Sound Record Pool, all this whole area around here was prime for discos and rappers and dancers, and we all grew up. We broke apart. Everybody grows up and gets married and goes on their way. But thank God to Facebook, we're able to connect.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's really amazing. You're even more multifaceted. So the other time you really impressed me was when you had the Fairway jacket on. I was like, yeah, where'd you get that Fairway jacket? You were like, oh yeah, I used to work at Fairway too. So when was that in the whole chronology? Because Fairways, I think, is an amazing market.
I think when you enjoy doing what you do, and you're able to enable yourself to make more. So I just went from companies to companies, looking to see what because I enjoyed it. So it doesn't matter where I go. Right. And I knew how to make money and solve problems for companies. So that was an asset that I had that people in the industry knew. Yeah. I knew. So whether I went from Gristedes to the Chico Sea Towns in Westchester to Morton and Williams supermarkets. And then someone at Fairway discovered me and said, listen, we're having a big problem. We can't make, we're